Hello, hello, hello. I'm looking for my friend, Jerry Bryce. But if you're just watching me here on live, it's me, Damon, doing a quick little hello and a live this evening. Um, I'm on the East Coast now, out here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm out here with my boy, Kisan Hart, world surfer extraordinaire. Thought you heard. So, waiting on Jerry. Okay. Reviewer. There he is. Oh shoot. This is awesome. Look at this.
Well,
I can hear you.
it's not
I can hear you amazingly.
really.
Yeah, it's popping.
Well, it's it stopped working for me, so I don't know if you guys, I don't know if it's coming through here or not. But
I can hear you. Yeah.
okay,
Can you?
I'm just hearing you through the phone.
All right. So let's just use that. So you don't need the headphones.
I don't need the headphones. This is the Foxy and Faith podcast with Damon Hart of California and Jerry Bryson of South Georgia. We are bringing faith, finances, and fatherhood into a fun-filled environment for our discussions, for your entertainment, and hopefully your enrichment.
That's
So,
right.
Damon.
Enrichment is optional. The entertainment we deliver. Right?
That's right.
So look, yeah, I want to talk about a few different things this week, and it's so good to see you again, my buddy, because we didn't talk since last week. It's so crazy. We haven't even talked.
Yeah.
So tell me what's going on. Tell me what's new with you.
Okay, so here's some gritty.
Okay, ready.
I install a bathroom ceiling, like the fan, like when you flip the switch, it turns the fan and the light on.
I've seen those, yeah.
Not fun, Damon. Not. So apparently, okay, so I'm not an electrician, and I only do DIY stuff because I have to, right? When we owned our last home, it's like, oh my gosh, I can either pay somebody hundreds of dollars to do this, or I can just struggle through it myself. So this particular wire needed 3 wires, and there's only 2 wires. And so I've got a fan, but no light. And I didn't know that. The old fan that was in there, it worked just fine. I guess it was 120 volts, whatever. I don't know, that stuff is over my head. But anyways, it was a miserable mess, man. I had insulation falling through the hole in the ceiling. I was on the ladder the whole time. And I'm telling you, man, 2.5 hours of this. I'm not you're a buff guy. I'm not a buff guy. Okay, so
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to even
Just
I'm way
like hold it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
But that's what's going on with me, man. What's going on with you?
Well, look, I mean, so today we got started. Like I was saying, we got started at like 6 in the morning. Flew out from California. We're in Nashville now. The flight was great. Food was good. They took good care of me on the flight. Had breakfast, and we had snacks and lunch and all that stuff. So nothing to complain about there. Met a nice lady who was a commercial banker. And what's interesting is I was reading a book on the plane, and in the part that I was in, he said, strike up a conversation with the person next to you, which normally I would, but today I was sitting in first class, and I really didn't feel like, kind of like, I don't know, I just didn't feel like necessarily being friendly.
Sure.
But it wasn't like it's more like sometimes I think people just don't want to be bothered. So I was just like, I was like, okay, let me say hi or whatever. And it was prompted by the book. Well, sure enough, this lady was so nice, and you know what the question I asked her was?
What's that?
I said, hey, why are you wearing, I was like, I noticed that you wore the mask today, but you don't have it on right now. I said, why did you wear the mask? Like, what's the reason behind it? And you know what her response was? It was, sometimes when people are walking by on their way back, I just something about it. So I just want to wear the mask. I feel like people are coughing and sneezing. Weird. But once she sat down, she was totally fine. So I was just like, You know, it's like, man, the things that we think about, right? As like people, the things that go through our heads, you know,
Yeah.
it's not rational. She even knew it. She knew it wasn't like a rational thought at all.
Interesting.
It was
Interesting.
it was pretty cool, and she was the sweetest, sweetest person to talk with. We talked about, her being from Chicago and just coming out there to visit her brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and they love California. They visit often, and she was talking about, I was traveling with Kisan, so she talked about, oh my gosh, like she knew about the waves and had some really good questions about contests, and it was just a great conversation. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's great.
that was my day. And in between, a couple of fires here and there, but can God, talk about faith. God is good. Like as I'm sitting up there in the clouds, I'm just like, how else could you explain other than there being an all-knowing being? How is it that we can create something this amazing? We're flying through clouds.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine that. Like,
Yeah.
that's just to me is as a mortal being, like eh, being able to walk, like I'm walking around, even surfing to me is like, okay, you have this piece of styrofoam or whatever they put in there, whatever it is that they make the boards out of. It's nothing fancy, but yet you can ride it. It's like, to me, it's amazing what created. God's created us in all this. It's just wild to me.
One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had was in a plane where so and I don't want to go into all the details or anything, but I was at a point in my life where I hadn't really prayed in a very long time, like years.
Okay.
And so I started praying because he was doing some things in my life. And I ended up on this plane to Alaska. And, I was 23 and just my life was really kind of leading up to this point was a mess. I'd made a mess of things. And so I'm on this plane to Alaska and I'm nervous. My nerves are just wrecked, And so I'm asleep on the plane and then I hear the sound of the pilot. He comes over the radio and he's like, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to the right side of the plane, you'll notice the northern lights. And so like I wake up and I open the look out, man, and it's like we were eye level. It seemed like we were eye level with the northern lights, and it I felt this big. It was because it was, I'd never seen anything like that before. It was green and it looked like smoke, and it was moving and the sky was crystal clear except for just this giant mass of whatever this green stuff is, and I was just, I don't know. I mean, it kind of blew my mind, like in a very real sense, and just like God is doing this, and I'm just this big. That's all I could think of was how small I was. And then so after that, that was a very provocative experience. We go to land in Anchorage, and it was snowing, and I'm already kind of nervous, but anyways, coming over Anchorage, it's like Anchorage is down in a bowl. I guess kind of like how Los Angeles is. I've never been there.
Okay.
But it's like a mountain range, and then it's just a big valley.
Kinda.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So over the tops of the mountains and into the bowl, it's just cloud. All you can see is just like white cotton. You can see the mountains with no cloud.
Right.
Down in there is so crazy, right? So we go into the cloud, and it's just like snow and ice. And I'm right by the engine, where the wing is.
Right.
And I'm just like all this powerful, the engine's turning, and we're flying 500 miles an hour, whatever it is, and we're descending into this cloud. You can't see anything, and all of a sudden it's just snow and ice. I'm just like, oh Lord, But everything was fine. We landed in the snow. It was just an amazing. God was like showing me, get out of your box, take me out of the box, and think a little bit. So
yeah. So okay, so I think that's the topic that we can just stay on there, and that's getting out of your box, right?
Yeah.
I'm right now. I'm sitting at a mastermind group in Nashville, Tennessee, and one of the things that I can see that's helped my growth over the last few years, and people talk about it all the time, and like books and stuff. They say masterminds and all this, but really, until you see it, you really don't understand it, as far as I can tell. And being here in this little space, within the mastermind groups, what I've always found is like you can really expand and get outside of your box, so to speak, because what you start to realize is when people have something in common and you guys get together and start thinking about bigger and bigger ideas and sharing different things, your mind just expands, you know? And I think that that's something that, I mean, as something that I think if anyone's watching, like, what do you think about that whole idea of just getting out of your box by getting around different people and getting around different conversations that would help you to expand? You know, if you want to get into business, hang around with business people. If you want to get into a certain type of sport, um, get around people that have that like mind, so you can you can start to expand around that. You know, have you seen anything like that in your life, Jerry? Like where you just shared your story. Anything like that, like something similar?
Oh, absolutely. Um,
Thanks for jumping on. We appreciate you.
yeah. So I used to work at a golf course,
Yeah.
and that was one of the first times I ever heard a saying that was like that. Was they said, "Hey, if you want to play golf better, play with golfers that are better than you. You will play better."
Right.
I was horrible at it, so it didn't. I could play with just about anybody, and I was better. And I noticed, like, wow, when I play by myself versus when I play with somebody better, it is absolutely noticeable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what is, I wonder what that thing is, right? Because like, there's a part of it that's like that comfort,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when you're playing by yourself, you know as good as you're gonna get. So you never really get uncomfortable. But I know when I get around guys that are in the 5, 10, 20 million in revenue, they have a couple different businesses, and they have a lot more going on in terms of marketing. And it's not like a comparison, it's just what is, right? It's not like they're better or worse. It's just they're at where they are and I'm where I am. It's just like sports, like somebody's a certain type of player and someone's another. You could be a beginner or an advanced. But when you get around that, it's like I just feel all of a sudden like, wow. I start asking myself, like, yeah, man, where else can you get better? You know what I mean? Is it the same thing with the golf that you're talking about? Is it kind of like that same experience that you kind of see, or what?
So, like, okay, take you for example.
Yeah.
You are somebody that challenges me in a good way, right? And it's because you're operating at a level with things where I admire you. Okay, I admire you, and and maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's because there's a way that I'm looking up to you that I feel like I need to be on my game because Damon is always on his game. So I can't come here and be like, man, I'm tired. I can't do that because Damon's up here, so I need to be up here. And so I think it's like that. Like when you show up at a golf course and there's three other players that they're shooting like a low like 80 or something like that. It's a par 72 course, and they're hitting par almost every time, and they're getting birdies.
Non-golfers, they're just good golfers. We don't know the yeah.
they're good golfers. I'm not gonna go out there and be like, oh man, I don't even know how to swing this thing. You're gonna watch what they do, and it's like a almost what is the word, synergy, right?
Synergy.
There's a synergy that's it's almost like it's inviting you. It's like we're here, the door's open, you come in here too. And it's like, hey, I'll come be part of this, and then maybe I'll have some of that good some of the good vibes, good energy, whatever,
right,
that's going along with it. Instead of hanging back and not being a participant, right? It draws you in, and you're like, yeah, I want to be part of what's going on here.
Right.
So
maybe
it's something like that.
Yeah, and I don't think we're too far off, but whatever you want to call that, if anyone wants to drop something in comments, like I think that's 100% like we might be on to something, because it's not foreign to most of us. Like you get around someone, and now it may be uncomfortable. Let's keep it real, right? It may be uncomfortable because when I'm in that room, I do my best, but it's just a part of me. It's just like I feel like, well, I don't have that, so what can I contribute? That's kind of where I kind of go sometimes, and I don't think I'm alone. Sure. But at the time, once you get in there and you contribute whatever you can, you start to, like you said, feel like you're part of it. You're just taking swings. And before you know it, you're just like, wow, that's pretty cool, you know? So I wonder if if we can, I don't know, and just I don't know. I feel like maybe we can just talk more about that and how. Okay, how is there a way to assimilate with that? Like, is there something that you did in the golf game that helped you to get more confident right there on the spot? Like, was there anything like that that you used to kind of like just get into the game and you felt yourself like maybe you were uncomfortable at first, but now you're in a groove? Was there something like that that happened?
So okay, so the uncomfortable thing. Okay,
Yeah.
so if I'm out there by myself, and I'm on the golf course by myself, and you know, I worked there, so I had plenty of opportunities to do that. Um, there is, it's almost like a, I don't want to say fish out of water, but there's a lack of direction when you're by yourself,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And you know, there's like an awkwardness and there's an uncomfortableness. There's a lack of confidence. But when you're with people that know the course and know exactly what clubs to use, and you know, if you you know, aim over this way, you might hit the cart path, and so it'll actually go. You know, just little things like that.
Right.
They're not lost. They're confident, and so it's almost like you're kind of sharing in with their confidence, right? So it's almost like you're not going to experience fatigue from decision making because the decisions are being made for you, right? And it's like, if you notice, like when you jump on a trampoline, I don't know if you guys ever jump on trampolines or not, but I don't know, come on, you lived in Florida, they had to be a trampoline somewhere around there, right?
When you move to Florida, they say, here's your
Right. So
What's your license? Get one.
so you notice, like, okay, you know what the double jump is, right? You got two people, or you could even do it with just one person. If one person jumps and you're coming down, as they start to come up, it propels you even higher,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
And I think it has something to do with that. It's like if a person is forging a path ahead of you, or they've already forged a path ahead of you, then that gives you room. Whereas before, all you're doing is forging the path on your own, and it can be exhausting because you're having to make decisions and you're having to learn every little thing.
Yeah.
Well, so they're going ahead of you, and it just gives you that much room, that kind of freedom. So I think some of the nervousness and the awkwardness of this being new, or me not being as good as them, gets kind of smoothed out because they've already been there.
Uh,
Maybe
yeah, no, no,
they
that's
don't have energy. They've got confident energy.
dude, that's a what's it called? That's a gem, I think, you know, what you just said. Because I don't know if you ever think about that, but yeah, it's like they already been there, so they don't have the worry about what it looks like because they already know. Is
That's
that
right.
in? Is
Absolutely.
wow.
Like, it's like if you have, when you're okay, when we were young and single, and just kind of, you know, kind of stupid, and I don't know if you ever went through that phase or not, but
Just like
yeah, we would go out with no direction, no
no, no,
plan,
no.
just go out and maybe find love or something. But it was dumb. But go, like older guys that had money, they knew where to go, and they knew, you know, how, they knew exactly what to do and where to go, and it was a completely different experience. It's like these guys aren't nervous at all.
Yeah,
They've been
they've been through it. Yeah,
so
yeah,
so my nerves, you know, are much more calm because I mean, it's like, I'm sure it's like surfing with a pro versus a gang full of newbies. There's a completely different energy there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would 100% say that, and yeah, Kassan would probably be better equipped to answer that one, but than me. But I mean, from outside, I could see it. I can see a difference. So I love that, man. I love that insight that you bring to that because yeah, I think that's a huge thing. And that's, you know, so if we could segue into business, I would say that's one of the things that I have that it seems like that's helped me progress more so in business than just the sheer work. And I wish that more people knew that. I really do because sometimes there was a part of the business that I always felt like it was more like, oh, I'm just gonna work harder. I'm gonna do it better. I'm gonna do it stronger. And then spent a lot of time um, trial and error, like figuring things out.
Sure.
And I feel like I lost a lot of time that I could have put towards maybe, working on that path that was already built. Instead, I was building my own path and getting derailed, like, foreclosure, bankruptcy, marital, like, struggling, talking to your wife, not making money. And she's like, dude, what are you doing? Like that kind of stuff,
Sure.
And I feel like a lot of people, if they get up enough courage, then they don't have that guidance, they're going to run into that too. And that's scary, that's really scary, because most people are not going to be as resilient. I don't think most people are kind of logical.
Sure.
You got to kind of be almost like a little crazy to be two things, to be a business person and a pastor. And we have both of them on this call, right? Like you're pretty much like, you do some things that people probably wouldn't want to do, right? And for themselves, they just wouldn't. But the rewards, I would say, I can speak for myself, and I think you would too for yourself. The rewards are fantastic. That's why you do it. But you have to go through the downs too. You have to take those as well.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And like with what I see, like in you, okay.
Yeah.
You are somebody that is inspiring, man. Like you're inspiring because you're living your life, man. You're living your life. You're living your dream, and you're making things happen. You're always learning. You're always progressing. You're always moving forward. And it's like that's like with pastoring, it's like that. It's always learning. I'm always learning. There's never going to be a spot where I just know it all. I mean, there might be a time where I've seen most everything I'm going to see.
Sure.
But the learning doesn't stop, and the
Sure.
improvement doesn't stop. And so you have a discipline that is it's contagious. You're like, all right, Jerry, this is what we're going to do. What are you going to do? It's like, what am I going to do? I have to think about this. I have to put some thought into it. And then I have to execute because I can't not execute. I can't come back to you without any results. Well,
yeah.
I just no, there is none of that. It's we got to do it. So,
sure.
There's always room for thoughtfulness, but it's never replacing action. There's, anyways, that's just a little. I guess I'm just telling that to myself.
Yeah. So here's one I picked up. Here's one I picked up recently. But I'll give you a prime example, and that is comfort. Comfort that we kind of, as I don't know where it was, but I was kind of referred to as comfort. It's kind of like it's the great thief, because when someone wants to get comfortable, they want things to kind of stay the same. And I want to challenge people to think, right? Like if you think about like nature, right? Before we lived in houses and societies and cities and towns, what did we have to do as men and women? We had to go out there and find a way to survive together, right? That was like our greatest endeavor. And then what did we have to do after that? Procreate and then bring those people along with us, right? So before we were doing that, like the biggest thing was survival. And was survival ever really comfortable? Heck no. Because every day you'd have to go out and find something to eat. Every day you'd have to worry about like predators or some kind of interloper or something like that. Somebody that was going to potentially cause harm. So threats. You also had the elements and whatever else was going on. So it was never about being comfortable. It's only recently that we're starting to just go, not even recently, not even like in the last couple of years, but like as a society, they're really, most of those other outside things are pretty much far removed. You go to the supermarket, get your food. If there's a threat, you call the police. If someone says something bad about you, you can always sue them. Like there's so many functions, right? Yeah. But
sure,
I truly believe that now with all the comfort, you got to be very careful, because those are the things that are going to kill your existence. Because as human beings, I do not believe that we're meant to be comfortable. We're meant to struggle. We're meant to have things be difficult. So if you're having a difficult time, it's because it's to help you grow into something more. Now, if you don't have any difficulty, if you don't have any of that, look at the rest of your life, and I guarantee that you're probably disinterested. You're not super motivated or have the success that you want. And that's something that I looked at personally, and I saw that, you know, it seems like, dude, you're not as pushing yourself as high as you really ought to.
Right.
You really aren't. And that's what kind of prompted me to say, okay, how can I play bigger? So when I'm saying, hey, Jerry, let's get on this podcast again and do this thing. We're awesome, right? Like, that's out of me, like, saying, I didn't, you know, I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't wait to start a podcast. It's just like, hey, get out of your own way. Talk. Get out, talk to people, talk about things that matter. And let's help make the world a little better place, you know? Together, you and me.
And see, and I know you, and I see, I can tell people like this guy when he's talking about not being comfortable, he means it. Like I remember when let's see, we stayed in Jackson. Was it Jacksonville? It
Yeah,
was Jackson.
yeah.
We went to that seminar, that boot camp, right?
Yep.
Like you were working out and eating really healthy, and I was like, man, this guy's got discipline, dude. He like that's when I saw how disciplined you were. Like because like you were eating healthy and working out while you were on the road, while you were in a hotel. I was like, oh man, Damon's like for real, for real.
Yeah.
He's not playing around. I was like, oh, but you're absolutely right, man. The comfort, being comfortable, you know, it's kind of dangerous in a way. It's like if I work a hard day, let's say today was kind of a rough day, I would like to be comforted at home, but that doesn't mean I can't always shy away from what makes me scared or what makes me have to work hard, because that's where it's at, man. If you don't get near the dragon, you can't get near the gold. You know, that's where the gold is. It's by the dragon. You gotta face the dragon to get the gold. And so
Yeah.
it's out there.
Yeah. And look, it's scary. It is going to be scary. It 100% is going to be scary, no matter what. 100%. You know, but the thing is, it's like, you know, all right, if you've done anything that you're scared about, like if, you know, I think a lot of people, they kind of get the fear.
Right.
And I shouldn't say a lot. I say that people tend to. Like, that's our programming. I don't think truly people do anything like the average person. I don't think there is such an average person. I think people just make up shit. Like, it's a statistic. They make it up. Pull like 20 people in a room. The average American. No, dude. I think the programming is to say, hey, you know, when you get scared, it's a sign that you should back away, as opposed to, I think that's programming. That's what's, hey, be safe. Don't color outside the lines. Don't go, you know, don't go towards the unpopular view. You know, let's read current events. Remember when you were in school, you read current events and everybody was sitting talking, they would say, well, what do you think about this? But then everybody had to think back, and then everybody would come up with the same, like the most logical or most popular idea. That's programming.
Right.
You know, what about the kid in the back? Like, no, I think the communists are fine. I think you need to leave them alone and just stay here and worry about domestic disputes and stop going across country lines. And okay, we're not listening to that kid. You know what I mean? Like, there's no space for that. So I wonder if it's not just us being more comfortable with fear and just saying, yo, I'm scared. That's okay. Now I'm going to do something about it anyway. And most of the time when I do that, it's not as bad as I thought.
Sure.
It's not. Like, I thought it was going to be horrible, and it wasn't that bad.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I actually got a lot further than I thought I would, you know?
Yeah. Sure. And
I don't know experience, but that's always been the case. Like, even your wife, like, you were probably scared when you first talked to her, weren't you?
Yeah, I had some other psychological things, some other hurdles to. When I saw her, I was like, she's the prettiest girl on this campus. I'm not even gonna talk to her. There's just no point.
There you go.
But I'm like, fear didn't enter into it. It's just like, okay, forget her. Let's see who's a 6 or a 7 I can go after. You know, but eventually, eventually that got worked out.
Yeah.
But that, you know, talk about programming, that was definitely things. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just with like say a mate, but just anything. It's like that job or that guitar or you know,
Yeah.
something is like, oh, that's for somebody else.
Yep.
That's not for me. And it's like, well, wait a second, why not? You know, am I willing to work for it? Is it something that I would like to have, or is it something that I need? Then what do I have to do to attain it? Am I willing to go after
Sure.
it? That kind of thing.
Sure.
So so a lot of that has been worked out, and but yeah, going back to what you're saying, absolutely. In general, it's not as scary as you think it is, but there have been a couple of times where it was like my own Goliath, you
Like
know,
scarier. Like,
and
whoa.
that
You would say that. That's we're perfect on this. You would say, yeah, there was one time. Oh my God.
there was a couple times.
Of course. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, but again, but such is life, right? Like if we were talking, hey, I'm going out there and trying to capture something to eat, guess what? I might get out there and it might be time to go and, go hunt that little I don't even know shit. I haven't even hunted, right? So like I got to go get this little animal, and I'm thinking it's easy. And here comes the mama right behind it. Now I got to go kill both of them. You know what I mean? Like it's just the way it is,
Yeah,
and you're gonna do what you do. But that's part of being a human being, I think. Otherwise,
right.
we're not really living. We're not really doing what it is that we're here to do. What we're doing is just existing, and I don't know if that's motivating for most people. Do you notice, Jerry? Is you notice the amount, and this has been for years now, do you notice the amount of television commercials and ads that you see for all this pharmaceutical stuff? You know, from anything from like erectile dysfunction to just people just not being able to have a good night's sleep. Like, dude,
Yeah,
is that is that living? And they're saying it's there's no explanation for it. It's hereditary. 40 years ago, my mom didn't have any friggin' problems sleeping. You know why? Because my mom worked and busted her ass, and then she went back to work the next day. She slept very well. So did my dad,
yeah,
my grandmother, so my grandfather. Everybody worked, you know. But now it's just like I don't, and it's not a knock. I just think that we ought to just be. It seems like we're not willing enough to just open our eyes and just look around for a second and just be like, you know what? This is not true. This is not. This is not.
absolutely. Unfortunately, it is an individual revelation where somebody's like, "Oh, I get it
Yeah.
now." I, a lady, a customer that we work with in Valdosta, she used to be a pharmaceutical sales rep, and she said over time, when she had some of her friends come to her and say, "Oh, hey, you know, I was on like 3 or 4 medications, but then I started taking vitamins and exercising, and I got healthy, and now I don't take any medications." She says once that happened a few times, she was like, "Oh, maybe I'm not actually helping people with the pharmaceuticals, right?" And so does like more other. She does other things, but she's not part of that scene. It's like, why are people unwilling? And maybe it's the comfort thing, right? Maybe it's the programming and the comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got friends that I love that I hope very much for them that they would be willing to start taking vitamins, exercise, get some sunshine, maybe do some things for other people, right? And then kick those pharmaceuticals to the curb.
Mm.
And just healthy eating, healthy living, healthy mindset, healthy spirit, they would be fine, I think. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell somebody, hey, you should stop doing that. But in my heart, my mind, I'm like, Lord, help this person to see that our health, unless somebody has done us a great wrong, our health is our responsibility. Um, unless there's, some genuinely freak genetic thing that happens as an act of God or something.
Right.
Health is our responsibility. I mean, that's all there is to it. If I get overweight because I eat McDonald's, it's not McDonald's fault. It's not this country's fault. It's my fault. And I'll say this, I would rather live in a country where we have that problem where people overeat, where you can go to any buffet you want and there's loads of food. I would rather live in a country that has that than people that are dying of starvation. People that have to wait in bread and get rations for rice. Like in North Korea, they have rations for rice, and the people in the country, they starve to death, little kids. So I'm glad that, heart disease is our number one problem here. People are so free; they're free to eat themselves to death. As sad as that is, and morbid as it may be.
What it says, but yeah, I mean, that's true, right? Freedom isn't free, right? Freedom isn't free, right? You have to work for it. And what I think what you're saying is so I guess captivating about what's special about America and what's special about like the level of freedom that we have compared to everybody else. And and you're right, it's like take advantage of it. It's a gift, but I also think it's also perspective too. Like you have to be awake to it. And how do people stay awake to it, right? I just think it's your first thing is like tune into special media like Foxy and Faith podcast. Like we're gonna get you where you need to be and plugged into the right stuff, right? But I also think it's like just like regular media, like the Michigan State thing recently, right? And I'll talk about that briefly, but I'll say before I start, I don't know anything about it other than people died, and it sounds like nor do you, right? But here's the story I'll tell you. Chrissy and I went out for like a little date night on Monday, and that was the night that it happened. So in the morning, I wake up to go work out, and it was about 5 o'clock, and we were at a hotel, and the guy, he says to me, he says, I was like, hey, how's your day going so far? He says, really horrible. I said, wow. He's like, yeah, after what happened at Michigan State. And I promised to say, oh, what happened? And then he just starts talking about the guy and this and that. And I was like, all right, cool. And I was just like, yeah, I'm like, sorry to hear that, man. I'm like, hope you have a better day. And I took off and I went and worked out. Came back, felt amazing, did my normal routine, trained, blah, blah, blah. I came back, and he was still there. But I was just thinking to myself, like, holy shit, the two like ships in the night, right? Like that guy, and he was at work, granted, right? But he chose to watch the news, hear what's going on in Michigan State, da 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 da. What did my ass do? I got up. I worried about what I could do to help my life and the people around me that I care about, the people I can affect. I went out, took care of my body, came back and then went on my day with my beautiful wife and my family. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a choice, So you wonder if we all, I don't want to know the exact story. I'm not saying my story is perfect necessarily, but what if everybody just did more of that? Imagine what life would look like doing that, right?
Absolutely.
There
was a very short amount of my time where right after me and Laura got married, I was trying to find something I could do to impress her all day. And so I started doing insurance, right? And I went to a lot of people's houses where I would sit down with the husband and the wife and just kind of listen to, they're older, obviously, and listen to kind of their story. And this is one pattern that I always saw.
What's that?
Most of the time, the wife took supplements and vitamins, and the husband was always on prescriptions, and the wife was always in better shape than the husband. And maybe that's the natural order of things. Maybe they say that the husbands die 9 years before their wives, typically on average, right? So maybe that's just how things go. But just seeing that pattern over and over, where older women who were more inclined to take herbal supplements and vitamins fared much better than their husbands who were taking prescriptions. Right. So one of the things that attracted me to my wife, because I've never been like a big health expert or anything like that, but even when I was single, I would eat, I would eat well and I would exercise. But Laura, my wife, she always is eating very well. She's drinking teas. She's always health conscious and all those things. And so it's like, that is attractive to me because she cares about what goes into her body. She's going to care about what goes into my body. So I'm inviting her influence, right, into my life
Right.
because she's going to care more about it than I am, but I'm also not going to push her away and say, "Oh, that's dumb. That's health. That's stupid talk." No, I was like, "Yeah, tell me. Oh, what is this? Oh, asparagus. Oh, hey, let me try that out. Oh, this is delicious. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, arugula is better for you. Okay, I'll have some arugula then, and let her, care about that aspect for me.
Right.
And it's been a blessing. And yeah, I'm taking vitamins now, and I'm eating things that I wouldn't have eaten. And, it's been good.
That's awesome. And you look good. I told you that, like, I hadn't seen you like in a year, and I'm like, Jerry, you're looking good. Not like hey, like, hey, just want to take you on a date kind of looking good, Jerry. More like, like we could hang out. Like, we could be good friends like we've always been. You know, not making it weird kind of, but just, keeping it friendly. But yeah. And because you haven't really aged, bro. Like, you taking
Oh,
care of yourself, you could tell.
uh,
And you want to do that with your boys, right? You want to do that with your boys and take care of them.
that means so
That's what's important, I would imagine.
much. That means so much.
Yeah, it's the truth.
When you said I haven't aged, that means so much.
Uh,
Because friend haven't aged, but
yeah. I see some of my friends. I see some of my friends now. We're on Facebook. It kind of tells all, and I'll be like, "Golly, has it been that long?" I start to wonder how old I am.
yeah,
But it's not a knock on them. I just think that we definitely we have all these different things that, the mind is so complicated, but what I've heard is whatever you focus on, expands, right? And I focus on taking care of myself because I realize, you can't provide anything if you're sick. I don't want COVID. I don't want heart disease. I don't want any of that stuff. I don't want any of it. So whatever is out there is not for me. And how do I do it? I just a little bit ounce of prevention every day. If you can do a little ounce of prevention, and not be comfortable. Sometimes I'm out there. It's cold. At first, when I started going out in the cold, because California's cold, I'm like, "Ah, it sucks. I don't like it." But now I'm just like, you know what? I'll go out there in some cold, and it works. Have you ever done the cold, like a cryo? Have you done that? Have you ever tried that? The cryo thing.
is that the cold bath?
It's not the cold plunge. That one's different. There's a lot of cold options now, right? But
Yes.
they do this thing. There's a cryo, like it's like a big machine, and you get in it. It's like a forced freezer. It just gets cold from like the neck down. Have you ever done this?
Oh, I have not. I'm
Oh
not.
my gosh, we did it the other day for the first time. I hadn't done it before, but I'd done like a cold shower. I do cold showers every day, and they say the cryo, if you do it enough, whoever they are, but the benefits are supposed to be that you're going to help regenerate some of your cells. It's going to help to repair like muscles a lot faster. A lot of professional athletes use it to kind of recover instead of doing the ice baths like they used to back in, like they would soak their knees or whatever, or they would sit in ice, after a game. This is like the quick version of it that they do now. You know,
Wow.
yeah, cryo. So
Wow.
yeah.
How long are you in the show for?
So it's not very long. It's only like, I think maybe less than 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes to 5 minutes tops.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, depending on your tolerance, I think it goes from like 1 to 10, 10 being the coldest. I was like at a 5. But I like the cold showers too. Cold showers are cool. But I've heard recently too that if you do the cold showers with the hot, like you do a cold shower and then you do something like a sauna or a hot shower later on, it kind of helps to boost your testosterone too. So that's the thing that us, as we age, that's something we got to be aware of, like testosterone too. So I'm using everything I can get my hands on, and showering. Who doesn't have a shower? Like, I love that kind of stuff. I love stuff where you can have, like when it's almost like, when people used to say like home remedies, and it was like, if you found out a home remedy, you were like the man, like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, I got the flu," and they're like, "No, just take some honey and some castor oil and rub it around with some lemon and some," you know what I mean? And
Right.
then drink that 4 times a day, and then, and then take a hot shower, and then you'll be all right. Like, I love that kind of stuff because you're
Yeah.
like, when it works, you're like, all right, perfect. Now, one less pill you got to take, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I feel like this stuff is. And the internet has so much of it. It's like you could look around on these channels. They got so much information. It's amazing. It's amazing, man.
Nice.
So I don't know, Sir Jarrett. So look, I know we've been rapping here for a little bit. You're always awesome. Can you share a story that would enlighten someone? Because we promised some enlightenment too. Is there a story that happened this week that you could share with some enlightenment? Something that happened in your life or someone else's life that you were in touch with that you feel like could enlighten someone else here on this live chat?
Yeah. So me and the boys were doing some yard work the other day,
Right.
and I told you a lot of pine cones, and so my oldest son and I, we were on this other project, and I sent my youngest son, who was 6, over to pick up more pine cones, and he had a little 5-gallon bucket, and me and Vaughn, we were over here working, and I would look over and see Guy, and he was kind of just wandering around, and he would pick up some pine cones, but then he'd go, and there was a lot of them, right? Yeah. So I stopped what I was doing. I go over to him, and I said, "Hey, buddy, look, let's section off just a little area, and you just focus on these pine cones." And so I would kind of make him a little rectangle or whatever, and it's like, all right, just get these. And he'd get those picked up. I was like, okay, now let's come over here and just get these. Like, get from here to the tree and don't worry about anything else. And we worked that method until he was done. And I tried to explain this to him. I don't think he's going to get it, but the seeds are there. But it's like sometimes there's a lot going on. There's a lot on your plate. And if you're looking at everything, it will exhaust you. You'll burn yourself out because your mind is trying to make decisions on what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they call that analysis paralysis or whatever. And so sectioning off a certain amount of time or a certain amount of focus and concentrate that effort in one localized area will prevent you from getting burnt out. So we did that. And then later I was talking to one of the deacons from the church, and he was talking about all the different things that he had going on. And I said, you know, I experienced something like that recently. And I told him a story about me and my son. And he said, that's true. He said, but with adults, it's a little bit more complex than that. I said, how so? He said, well, with adults, you have decisions that have to be made in a certain amount of time because they expire. And things will pop up suddenly, and you have to make a decision on where they're going to fit into your schedule. And I said, you know what? I agree with you. It is a little bit more complex than just pine cones on the ground. Or if you have a mess in a room, that's a little bit different because, you know, they're stationary, like the pine cones. You can just section off one thing. But that gave me something to think about. And maybe I'll have like some kind of a full circle on that as well sometime in the future. But the pine cone thing, I think, still applies.
Yeah. Thanks for that story. And I'm sure, you know, I don't know what I took out of that was that just having that focus, you know, that having that focus. No, it makes a huge difference because who doesn't get overwhelmed?
Sure.
Doesn't feel you're you know, like I did, you know, like those moments come up all the time, but we, because we're adults, we're supposed to have it handled, right? Like we don't have someone, hey man, like just focus on these pine cones like you did. Yeah. That's what you do as a dad. So that's awesome.
That's it.
That's awesome.
Let the other stuff go.
Yeah. Yeah. Fix the first thing first. I love it. Yeah. And thanks for that. And I think for me, just going out, I would say for me, it's just the whole comfort kills thing. I saw it this week, you know, I was, for a very long time. One example is I just finished doing like this little commercial, and forever I would do this commercial, like little events and things like that. And I found myself being stuck around like, okay, if I do this commercial, you know, how much is it going to cost? What are people going to think? Is it going to work? Had all these thoughts until I just said to myself, you know what? Comfort kills. And I did this commercial, shot the commercial. I got all kinds of support from like, you know, my wife and, you know, one of her friends and because reached out to my community to get it done. And what I found is that, number one, I had an amazing time doing the commercial, just
Nice.
doing it. Forget if anybody even likes it. Like, it was so much
Yeah.
fun doing it that, now if when it gets out there and people have a positive reaction to it, that's even just icing on the cake, because I enjoyed the process of doing it. And that is what was fun about the business. That's what I always wanted about the business. So that part, like the whole comfort kills thing, was very real for me, because I'm like, I had to get past that. I've always done it a certain way. It's always kind of worked. But now that you want to do something bigger and better, or not necessarily better, just more of what you want to do, and you want to do something you haven't done before, guess what you got to do, Damon? Guess what you got to do, somebody watching this podcast? You got to do something you haven't done before. And when you do that, you're going to be uncomfortable.
That's right.
Do it anyway. What's the big deal? What else are you going to do? Watch Netflix? Yeah. I mean, Netflix, you can turn that shit off and on anytime you want. It's always going to be there. But this is your life. Somebody said, live your life like somebody's videoing you right now for your own TV show. How about that?
Yeah.
Let's see. Good. Yeah.
I like that. That's very encouraging. Do it anyway.
I promise. I did not create that. I just heard it somewhere. But think about it, right? Like, live your life like you're on a TV show, like a reality TV show, and other people are watching you. Would you do the same things that you're doing? Probably not. Probably not. You probably
we were a reality TV show right now?
Well, we kind of are live right now.
Kind of.
Those two viewers. Jenny, you've been with us the whole time. So I don't know who else is on. Hey, Jenny, thank you.
I know.
Yeah, Jerry says hi, Jenny. Who else we got? I don't know why I can't see anyone else. Let's see. Oh, and Trinidad. What's up, Trini? Yeah, Trinidad's been on here as well. Yeah, Trinidad. Yeah, one of the hunters. She's on there. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, Trini. Got a thumbs up from Trini. Appreciate it. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you were going to say something. I'm sorry. I was just shouting at everybody. There's Jenny, too. Yeah. Hey, Jenny.
That's why I have it. The sound went into the headphones. Anyways, no, man, it's been great. This has been a good time. What do you think, man? You like it better on Facebook or on Zoom?
I like the whole live, because we can interact. We'll see how this episode goes. If we can get it, like, if we can save it and get it on YouTube and all that stuff for everybody else to watch. But I liked it. I liked it a lot. And anytime I get to talk with you, Jerry, this is not work here, buddy. This is fun. We can,
feeling Sir Damon of Fornia.
I'm gonna be I'm gonna be of Earth pretty soon. You're gonna see me in different destinations all over the place. Today I'm in Nashville. You might get me back in California, somewhere else. I just want to just be all over this planet and just share some love, just like you. That's all.
Do it, man.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Yeah. All right, Senor.
Yes, sir.
Do
you have a great.
You want to wrap us up? How do we wrap? Last week it was just lights out. It was last call for alcohol.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Yeah. So how are you want to end this one? You tell me.
Well, we could do the outro. We could do a salute. We could high five it out. Whatever you think.
Yeah. Oh, how about this? How about we say, we keep it. Say, you know what to do. We'll keep it Foxy, and then you can say keep the faith, because this is Foxy and Faith. What do you think of that?
I like that.
Okay. So I'm gonna give it a shot. Let's see how it goes. Okay. So thank you for tuning in, Jenny and Trinidad, and whoever else popped on this podcast today on Facebook Live. We appreciate you. Please, next week, same time at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we will be here ready for you, and we'll be talking about new topics about faith, fatherhood, business, and just enlightenment and funniness at the same time. So this is Damon Hart, Foxy on Buyer, with his good friend, Jerry the Pastor. Bryson, saying, you know what to do till the next one. Keep it foxy, and
Keep the
till then, folks, we'll see you.
see it.